He is rejecting what we have developed as Western civilization.
People say, well, he's just being himself. He's so authentic. Okay, if a third worlder comes and starts defecating on the side of the street in Times Square, are we going to say, boy, he's being his true and authentic self? He's really being wonderful. No, we have standards in the West.
He's just like, hey, let's put root beer in all the drinking fountains. Everything will be free. Look at how I eat my burrito with my fingers.
Oh my God,
we have standards in the West? Does Charlie Kirk not know that there are homegrown Americans defecating on the side of the street right now?
No, I gotta jump in. Because I originally came from Turkey when I was 8 years old. And Turkey is not a developing country. Well, you could make arguments, but it's a top 20 economy, okay? So
I love when your Turkish pride comes out.
Yeah, okay. But my point is, it's not America, it's not Germany, Japan, etc. Okay? No one would ever defecate in the streets, and it would be horrifying. Whereas in LA, and New York, and San Francisco, I've seen feces all over the streets, right around the corner from my house.
We have standards.
We would never tolerate it in the West.
We have standards here in the West.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen human feces on the sidewalk more in any other country than America.
Yeah.
So, and my guess is Charlie Kirk would be opposed to that as well. But the idea that it doesn't happen here, but all those third worlders do it is hilarious.
Yeah.
But only matched by the hilarious comment by Chaffetz there on Fox News. He's like, next thing you know, he's gonna try to get us to eat burritos with our hands.
They're gonna make you drink Starbucks every single day until you die. Do you remember when Tucker said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, come on.
So look,
and then pizza and burgers and sandwiches and donuts, all of that with your hands. Can you believe they're gonna do that to Western culture?
So look, in what can only be described as giving Obama in a tan suit vibes, the latest culture war in America is about New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani eating rice with his hands. And now look, I'm just gonna say this. Number one, I prefer to eat rice with a fork, but I don't care about how Mamdani eats his rice. I don't care. I don't care if he eats it on a boat. I don't care if he eats it on a goat. Like, it doesn't matter to me. But it really, really matters to the right wing. So let's watch a video that kicked off all this outrage, and then we'll go to all of the crazy right wingers who are obsessed with this story.
Tell me, why is Palestine a part of your politics?
When you grow up as someone, especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding of the Palestinian struggle. It is one that is framed in terms of empathy and solidarity. Specifically growing up in South Africa post-apartheid, it felt as if one of the most natural things to wear around my body was a keffiyeh. And so then to get here and see all of a sudden this topic was not only one that was discussed very differently, but was entirely taboo. It was a shock to my system. And for me, what made it central to my identity is that it is a glaring contradiction. We say we care about freedom and justice and self-determination, and yet for some reason we draw a line when it comes to Palestinians that accept them.
So none of the right wingers that we're about to talk about addressed any of the substance in what Mamdani had to say there?
Of course not. How could they with those barbaric acts? That was a slightly different way of eating than me. Did you know that Chinese folks, a lot of them have soup for breakfast? What is wrong with them? I hate them.
I love soup for breakfast.
So what? Why would it possibly matter?
They also eat with sticks.
Yeah, they eat with sticks. What's wrong with them? The barbarians. Okay, so they eat slightly differently. What? Okay, no, but I can't stop going back to Chaffetz. I think that guy's hilarious. Okay, normally we eat burritos with a fork and knife here in America, and afterwards we have tea and crumpets. But this barbarian would have us just pick up the burrito with our bare hands.
Look,
and in New York of all places, I've never seen anyone eat with their bare hands in New York. Literally bagels, pizza, everything in New York you eat with your bare hands. But okay.
Okay, we also live in America that's about to celebrate the 4th of July. Can't wait, excited. One of the big items that people like to consume on the 4th of July. Hot dogs.
It's my favorite meat.
Well, some of those hot dogs, once you find out what's in the hot dogs, you're not gonna find it so appetizing. Maybe you would prefer to eat the rice with your hands as opposed to eat the hot dogs.
Does Charlie eat the hot dog with a fork and knife? I do declare. Yes.
Okay.
I have some condiments with it though.
Okay. So this story's hilarious. The ensuing culture war is. I mean, look, let's just go to the video. So here's Charlie Kirk explaining why he believes it's a signal of the third world coming to overtake New York. Let's watch.
We in the West value cleanliness. We have utensils. We teach our kids to use utensils. They say, well, what about burgers and pizza? Yeah, that food is designed that way. Rice, since we have utensils, you don't eat it because we're not in the third world with your hands. He's doing this to signal his third world cred. So think about it. To get credibility in the New York mayor's race, you have to pretend to be in the third world. People say, well, he's just being himself. He's so authentic. Okay, if a third worlder comes and starts defecating on the side of the street in Times Square, are we gonna say, boy, he's being his true and authentic self. He's really being wonderful. No, we have standards in the West. And in some of the comments of a TikTok video I made, people said, but Charlie, who are you to judge other cultures? No. That's the point. We in Western culture believe that our way of life is the best. We're better than Mohammedism.
I really want to do like brain scans of conservatives and just bring up random utensils, right? Because they do seem obsessed with utensils. Like you have Jesse Waters doing multiple segments about how men should never use straws or eat soup.
In public.
Like
in the shame of your private home, you could have soup, right? And he said French onion soup, especially with the cheese and stuff. So gay, right? But in your basement, you could like, oh my God, I'm so bi, right? And just go nuts, okay?
Oh my God. I just want to, I needed some comedic relief. So I really do want to thank all the various conservatives who are flipping out in this story. It's so good.
It's just a couple of things on what Charlie just said there. Okay, so number one, no, but burgers and pizza, they're designed to eat with your hands.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what Lord Burger decided back in the day in Hamburg or wherever. He was like, you know what, I'm going to design this to eat with your hands, unlike rice, okay? So rice, by the way, what is it designed to be eaten with? Because Chinese eat it with chopsticks.
They do.
And they think that we're crazy for eating it with a fork. They think it's totally inefficient.
They're wrong.
Okay, so, and then I just had rice upstairs. You know how I ate it? No, I ate it with a spoon. Because actually it's easier to pick up with a spoon. Am I a third worlder or am I above the first world? Because a spoon is more efficient than a fork. Okay, come on, come on.
I think this
really,
is more
guys?
important. I think this is more important than housing or healthcare. I'm glad we're finally adjudicating this topic.
Yeah, and so look, friends of mine growing up who were Indian, sometimes, especially when they were with their parents, etc., would eat with their hands, and they were trying to be culturally sensitive to their background, right? And to the elders of their family, etc. Did they eat that way when we were out at Denny's? No, right? But I never, like, even though I didn't experience anyone eating with their hands growing up until I saw my friends doing it, my head didn't explode. I instantly understood, oh, that's a slightly different culture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And in different cultures, they eat in ways that we're not as familiar with. And then that was followed with a giant, so what?
Yeah, and then you moved on with your life, and that was it. So Congressman Brandon Gill says civilized people in America don't eat like this. If you refuse to adopt Western customs, go back to the third world. Look, I would agree with a statement like that if we're like talking about honor killings or something, but that's not what we're talking about. We're literally talking about a guy who decided to eat rice with his hands. Doesn't mean I have to eat rice with my hands, doesn't mean Cenk does, doesn't mean anyone does.
Yeah, so now we're onto a serious topic and an important and interesting topic because nobody ever makes this distinction and it drives me crazy. The difference between people of a certain background, like all Muslims, all Indians, all anything, right? Versus culture. And So I believe that you can comment on culture, you can criticize culture.
Absolutely.
And so but a lot of folks and I don't mean this in any of the recent ways, but like some folks trying to be extra sensitive on the left say, no, you can't judge cultures like that. It's all relative.
I do it all the time.
No, it's relative when it's things that are like a matter of habit, tradition, etc., that don't hurt anyone else, that are irrelevant, etc., right? What kind of outfit you wear? Why do I care? I mean, go nuts, right?
I care a little bit.
I mean, look, so like the Orthodox Jewish folks who wear the giant Russian outfits on Miami Beach, like this 1800 winter coat. I mean, he's like drenched in sweat. He makes me look like I'm dry, okay? So like, I don't get it, and I think it's kind of funny, but so what? That brother likes that outfit, let him sweat his ass off. Who cares? Okay, so, but my point is, to your point, Anna, is that there are different cultural things that are outside of bounds. And so, for example, this is such an obvious and easy one. So we covered a story many years ago on TYT about Central Asian republics and how there was a very old tradition because of the Central Asian steppes. They were basically herders. This is also true in Scotland back in the day. And so it would lead to a lot of tribal warfare because it's easier to steal sheep than it is to steal land and then farm it, right? So it leads to a culture that is does more raids, etc. So now the part back to Central Asian Republic, they used to do raids and steal the other tribes' women.
Right.
So there's still a tradition that's almost gone now, and hopefully soon it will be gone. But one or two guys still do it once a decade or something, where they go and grab some poor woman and then they sexually assault her, and then the parents of the woman come by and convince the woman to marry the guy.
Yeah, and it has to do with, look, this stuff really does gross me out. I do negatively judge, cultures that put this like super high value on virginity. But it's about virginity, right? After she's been assaulted, basically,
raped. Yeah, let's keep it real. So what
she's no longer pure and she has no choice but to marry.
It's slightly worse than that. All of that is true. Plus, they think she had value before. We could get a dowry, etc. She now has no value.
I hate all of this stuff.
Okay, so
it disgusts me. So like, if we're talking about something like that, have at it, Haas, as Jake would say.
Exactly.
I don't mind judging that, but like, you guys don't have. Do conservatives or right wingers who hate Mamdani have any substantive, critique?
Yeah.
They don't talk about his policies, nothing.
So whereas actually there's a lot to talk about his economic policies, tons and tons, and some do, to be fair, right? But okay, so now guys, the reason I gave you that example is so you can see that rational people make rational distinctions, right? Things that are important and things that are not at all important. And this is another huge thing. If you then said, okay, everybody that's from Central Asia Republic, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, whatever, they're all rapists and no, that's not true. It's a tiny, tiny leftover part of the culture. Was it part of the culture hundreds of years ago? Yes. Does it mean that it should stay in your culture? No. Is it okay to say, hey, some parts of culture, of any culture, are so wrong from our perspective that no, here we have laws that say you can't do that. Of course. But does that involve eating, but the boundary line is pizza and rice and what you eat with your hands? Of course not.
Right.
And they try to make it seem like the foreigners are all like terrible and dirty and they defecate in the streets and they're all the same way and we got to keep them all out.
I know, but doesn't Ron DeSantis like to eat chocolate pudding with his hands?
Oh yeah, I mean, but that's why we're sending him back.
Where are we gonna send?
No, we're sending him back. Okay.
I got to show you one more video though. So we read a tweet or a post on X from Congressman Brandon Gill. Well, you're about to hear him and Will Cain talk about this very important matter in the next clip.
Just for the record, people have pointed out to you, pizza, burgers, hot dogs, eat with their fingers. But I don't think you can separate Mamdani's performance and what he's saying from the way he is projecting himself eating rice with his fingers. He is rejecting what we have developed as Western civilization.
And he puts these videos out online of him eating rice with his hands, which, by the way, is not something that Americans do. That is third world behavior. And that is connected to his policies. You know, the goal here is to undermine Western civilization, to fetishize the third world, which is what he's doing in that video, to look other, to look unique, to look interesting, so that he can then push in these policies. You know, the next step after that is he's gonna make another video in a couple of years, but instead of having a bowl of rice, it's gonna be an empty bowl, because that's where his policies are gonna get us.
It's not a rejection of a multicultural society unless the point of your cultural mores is to openly reject the place in which you have immigrated.
He's just eating rice with his hands.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it is.
But you know what?
There's nothing more to it than that.
No, I'll give him one thing that I found to be interesting about that video, not their commentary, is that I thought, that's interesting. He knows he's being taped and he's doing it anyway. I think what he was saying by doing that, because he's a super smart guy. It's not like he missed what he was doing,
yeah,
right?
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I think that what he was saying is, yeah, I'm not embarrassed of my culture. You want me to be embarrassed of my traditions and my heritage, but I refuse. I'm not embarrassed by it, and I belong here just as much as you do, even if you're not used to folks eating this way. And I think that's kind of strong. And because if he ever gets to a situation where he might be in a position to get power, I think he's smart enough to know that this would have happened.
Yeah,
right?
You know what, Cenk? I think there's a grain of truth to what you're saying.
Oh, I got it. I got the rice reference. I'm gonna tell you the one thing I'm surprised they're not going after. But first, also, I can't let this one slide either. Charlie Kirk with the Mohammedism. What is that? Like, why don't you just say Islam, right? It reminds me of like the old school, like the Klan. They'd call them like Mohammedans. Okay, like we're going old school, right? I always thought like I'm not like, and Musliman. Which kind of sounds like Muslim. So you see, I'm not like deeply offended by these goofballs, right? But like it is like if you think Mamdani eating with his fingers is purposeful in whichever direction, certainly Charlie Kirk saying Mohammedism,
of course,
is also purposeful to make it seem like so weird and scary and dangerous. The Mohammedism, yeah.
Whatever. Look. Yeah. Keep doing you, Booze, because I am entertained. Yeah. And I need to laugh, so that was great.
And so the thing that I'm surprised they're not going after is something that's a little bit true, which is he has way too many rings.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Okay, so
I know, Cenk, but
okay, I'm kidding around.
You're a bit of a grandpa. Okay?
Exactly, right? So for me, I'm unk, right? I'm old school, so I'm not gonna wear 8 different rings, right? But he's from the new school, and they wear a lot of rings.
They do wear a lot of rings.
So who cares? Wear 12 rings. What do I care, right?
Seems like you care a little bit.
No, but my point is that I'm surprised they didn't pick up on it yet. That's going to be round 2. And they're like, what is going on with these rings? They're trying to do, I don't know, fill in the blank, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I will say this. It is unusual to eat rice with your hands, right? And we don't do that in America, but some cultures do. And among the various cultural, traditions that various cultures have in this country, that is like the least offensive to me, right? Because I don't care. No one's forcing me to eat with my hands. Who cares? Like it's nonsense.
And when
Obama's tan suit, literally, it's the same type of nonsense.
And when you make a big deal out of it, you betray yourself. Right, because everybody knows it's not a big deal. And so when you pretend that it is, what you're trying to do is go, foreigner. Totally. And everybody knows it. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.